Hello, and welcome to Red and White Blue Talks with Camille Claiborne. So the much anticipated debate between Senator Raphael Warnock and Herschel Walker finally happened. So I guess tell me in the comments what you thought about the debate. I'm going to give you my take on it. So here's the thing. I was expecting Raphael Warnock to just murder Herschel Walker in debates, right? And I was expecting Herschel Walker to be incoherent, to fumble over words, and to be super inconcise, right? And I would say, for the most part, he met my expectations, and so I would give him a D as far as debate performance. Now, when it comes to Senator Raphael Warnock, I would give him about a B minus. So here's the thing. Raphael Warnock conducted himself as a politician. He really did. He was clear, he was concise, he was articulate, he was to the point. He evaded questions that he did not want to answer, and he did it in a pretty polite way. But in the same breath, right? Raphael Warnock is a Baptist minister. He is the minister of Dr. Martin Luther King's church. So I was expecting a wow moment. I was expecting him to move me with his words. I did not get that, right? He had maybe one moment where I was like,
women of this country and the women of this state woke up one summer morning and a core protection that they've known for 50 years was taken from them by an extremist Supreme Court. And I stand where I've said I stand in the past, that a patient's room is too narrow and small and cramped a space for a woman, her doctor, and the United States government. We are witnessing right now what happens when politicians, most of them men, pile into patients' rooms. You get what you're seeing right now. And the women of Georgia deserves a senator who will stand with them every single day. And I ran for the Senate to do at a policy level what we do at a local level every single day. I'm not going to be distracted by him and his allies. My people know the truth. They know the work we do every single day. And I couldn't be prouder of them. Proud to represent the Senate and proud to serve Ebenezer Baptist Church.
But he didn't have that moment where us as his supporters were jumping for joy. He just didn't have it. But I will say that I think that Herschel Walker's team prepped him well. He did the best that he could do, the best that he could do. I thought it was a pretty good debate. I'll give him a D. There were a few times where he fumbled on his words, but I would expect nothing less, and didn't give a concise answer to questions that the moderator asked. So at one point, the moderator asked a question regarding insulin and how to drive down the cost. And this was Herschel Walker's response.
Reducing insulin, but at the same time, you got to eat right, because he may not know, and I know many people that's on insulin, and unless you have eating right, insulin is doing you no good. You
don't have to be a board certified physician to understand that telling folks to eat right will address the current need for people to have insulin and further to address the high cost of insulin. So that was one that kind of had me scratching my head and thinking that wasn't a good answer. He then was asked about how to address student loan debt, and this was his response.
Forgiveness of student loan debt, and if so, how would you implement it?
Well, first of all, you can see that.
60 seconds, sir. I apologize.
Yes, first of all, you can see that Senator Warnock has gotten good at being in Washington, because you asked the question, why did Congress not do it instead of the president doing an executive order, which is what should have been done. And as I was traveling around the state of Georgia, I talked to people. Some people wanted to go to college, they couldn't. So they ended up going and working on father's farm. Some military wanted to go to college, they didn't. So he went to the military, may have lost an arm. So this is not right. Georgia people say it's not right. They said it's unfair. First of all, how can you transfer someone debt who owe it to someone that don't owe it? And also, Senator Warnock brags about making $400 billion that now the taxpayer, all you in the audience, got to pay for. You got to pay that debt. And I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan. I hope no one out here co-signed for anyone's loan, because I didn't co-sign for anyone's loan, and it's not right, it's not fair.
Yeah, that was one of those times where I was thinking, like, what? I'm assuming he does not support student loan debt relief. But here's the thing. Student loan debt is a real thing and affects a lot of people. Businesses got, some different businesses during whichever presidency you want to point to, they have gotten relief. Why not us as citizens? Why can't we receive student loan relief? You have people who went to college, right? Now they have jobs, but their jobs don't allow for them to be able to pay back their student loans and live, right? We need to be able to address this issue. So his response didn't exactly answer that issue, because here's the thing. Student loan debt is a real thing, and people are struggling with student loan debt. There are people who can't buy homes. There are people who are still living with their parents because they have the burden of having to pay back this hefty payment every month called student loan payments. He didn't exactly answer that question. Mr. Walker was then asked, does he support Medicaid expansion? This was his response.
In 1 minute, is it time for the federal government to step in to ensure all Georgians have access to health care?
Well, right now, people have coverage for health care. It's according to what type of coverage do you want. Because if you have an able-bodied job, you're going to have health care. But everyone else have health care is the type of health care you're going to get. And I think that is the problem. And what Senator Warnock wants you to do is depend on the government. What I want you to do is get off the government health care and get on the health care he's got to get you a better health care. So that's what I'm trying to do, to make you independent rather than dependent.
So Herschel Walker is telling people to get off the government. So I get his point, right? But what about the people who can't find a job? What about the people who are already on Medicaid, who are retired people? What about the people who, for whatever reason, can't work or can only work part-time? Are they just supposed to go without medical care? So again, his response didn't exactly address the issue. There's another point where the moderator asked how he would stem the cost of higher education. And this was his response.
What will you do to stem the cost of higher education going forward?
Well, first
you
of all,
have 30 seconds.
First of all, what you should do is get rid of federal funding of any college that raise their costs. Get rid of federal funding of any college that raise their costs. That's the first thing that you should do.
Anybody else need a bit of clarity on that? So Herschel is saying that to stem the cost of higher education, if a university increases their tuition or their fees, right, he is going to stop their federal aid. So I wonder how that addresses the issue of the cost of higher education. Because I don't think most universities want to raise their cost. Most universities have to raise their costs to, pay the staff, keep the university flowing, right? So they have to pay for the general operating costs, keeping the lights on, paying for the internet, offering scholarships to students. And I would think that that's probably why they raise their costs, right? To support the functionality of the university. So I don't know that cutting off their federal funding will address the issue, will stem the cost of education if you cut off their federal funding. Because they're raising their costs because they have to. So his response isn't necessarily a logical one. We'll say the debate had moments of good banter, when Reverend Raphael Warnock, brought up Herschel pretending to be a cop.
Have not done. I've never pretended to be a police officer, and I've never threatened a shootout with the police.
Well, and now I have to respond to that.
We are moving on, gentlemen.
I have to respond to that. And you know what's so funny? I work with many police officers, and at the same time,
Mr. Walker.
And it's okay to speak the truth. Do not bear false witness, Senator. Do not bear false witness.
Mr.
But I think I wanted more like down and dirty things. Like bring up the fact that this woman has come out saying that he paid for her to get an abortion. And he's in here saying how he's a Christian and he supports, black babies. I wanted them to go for the jugular a bit more. I will say though, sometimes I feel like Democrats are afraid to be Democrats. So when the question was posed to Reverend Raphael Warnock, will you support Biden in 2024? He evaded that
Like
answer.
a simple yes or no. Would you support President Biden running for a second term in 2024?
I've not spent a minute thinking about what politicians should run for what in 2024.
Is that a yes or a no?
The answer is I have not, and maybe this is difficult. Maybe this is difficult for people to understand because that's how politicians think. I think that part of the problem with our politics right now is that it's become too much about the politicians. You're asking me who's going to run in 24? The people of Georgia get to decide who's going to be their senator in 3 days, Monday. And I hope they'll show up and vote. And I'd be honored to represent them in the Senate.
You haven't thought about it. If you can think about it now, in 2024, the president will turn 82 years old. Are you concerned about his physical and his mental fitness at that time? You have 30 seconds.
And I get what he's saying, right? That we should kind of focus on the here and now. But sometimes I feel like we as Democrats are afraid to be Democrats. Listen, me personally, I'm always going to vote within my party. So if Biden is who my party chooses as their candidate in 2024, I'm going to vote for them. And I'm going to say that proudly. If Kamala Harris is the person that they put on the stage, I'm going to vote for her. So I'm going to vote within my party because I'm a Democrat. I believe in democratic values and beliefs. And it's like for him, so I was a little bit kind of perturbed when he would not say that he would support Biden. And then you had Herschel Walker. He kept shouting at him about how he supported Biden 96% of the time. Okay, damn right he did, right?
Senator Warnock has voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time. I'm ready to vote with the Georgia voters today. But
Thank you, Joe.
can you tell me why he voted with Joe Biden 96% of the time if he was standing for Georgia? That tells you that he's for Joe Biden, I'm for Georgia.
Mr. Walker, thank you.
The same cloth at 96% of the time, I'm running he and Joe Biden because they're the same. President Trump is my friend, and he won't stand up with Biden when yet he's voted with him 96% of the time. Let's be real.
We're members of the same party. Our ideologies tend to be in alignment because we're members of the same party. So of course he's going to support Biden 96% of the time. For me as a Democrat, I would have an issue if he didn't support Biden 96% of the time. We're members of the same party. We're supposed to be working towards the same end goal. Okay, so I felt like why not stand firm in the fact that you are a Democrat and you vote in alignment with your party and in your party's beliefs. Why not say that? Why not be proud of that? When his turn came, right, and they asked him, was he supporting Trump? What did he say? As incoherent and fumbled as he is, when they asked him about Trump, what did he say? He's going to support President Trump.
Former President Trump is also considering a run for the White House in 2024. If you can give me a simple yes or no answer, and we'll give you time to explain as well. Would you support a Trump 2024 run?
Yes, I would. And let me tell you, President Trump is my friend. Has nothing to do with that. He's my friend. I won't leave my allies.
And I felt like Raphael Warnock should have said that about Biden. Period. And I feel like I don't know why we as Democrats are so afraid to be outspoken, proud Democrats.